Welcome. As we begin today, may your day and your entire week be richly blessed by the divine.
Yes, absolutely.
Today, we're setting out on a very specific mission. We're going to examine a really profound physical and spiritual transition that's detailed in an ancient text, specifically Joshua chapter 4.
Right, and it's a fascinating passage.
It really is. And to do this, we'll be using scholarly notes from both the Holman and NAA study Bibles just to help us, navigate the mechanics and the psychology of this moment.
Because there is a lot of psychology going on here beneath the surface.
Exactly. So, to start, I want you to just imagine you are standing on the banks of a raging river, the Jordan River, and it's at flood stage.
Which is incredibly dangerous.
Right. And suddenly the water just stops flowing. It piles up in this massive heap miles upstream. And you, along with hundreds of thousands of other people, just walk across the riverbed on completely dry ground.
It's a massive, unprecedented event for them.
I mean, you make it to the other side, and you're standing in hostile territory. The adrenaline has to be pumping. So what is the very first thing you do?
Yeah, that's the real question, isn't it?
Because human nature dictates, a celebration or a sigh of relief or maybe, immediately setting up defensive perimeters.
That would be the logical military move, yeah.
But according to this ancient text, the immediate response isn't any of that. It's this massive, grueling, manual labor project involving 12 enormous river stones.
Which forces us to look at this event through a totally different lens. I mean, they are stepping from one era of their history into another. And the text reveals that this crossing is about far more than just geographic relocation.
It's like a hard reset.
Exactly. The requirement to stop in the middle of an ongoing miracle to do, heavy lifting, it indicates a deeply intentional psychological conditioning happening in real time.
So let's look at the logistics of that conditioning, because the text is incredibly specific about who is doing this heavy lifting.
It's not just anybody.
No, God commands Joshua to choose 12 men. But it's this highly bureaucratic selection process. He needs exactly one man from each of the 12 tribes of Israel.
Right, one from every single tribe.
And they are ordered to go back into the middle of the dried-up riverbed to the exact spot where the priests are standing with the Ark of the Covenant, hoist a massive stone onto their shoulders, and carry it all the way to their new camp.
And we have to remember what else is happening at the exact same time.
Right, the vanguard.
Yes. Meanwhile, as these 12 guys are hauling boulders, 40,000 armed men from the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh crossed the river first.
Full battle formation.
Exactly. They cross ready for war, heading toward the plains of Jericho. And the geographical context from the NAA study Bible notes is really crucial here.
What do they point out?
Those plains are an expansive area about 8 kilometers east of Jericho. So this vanguard of 40,000 soldiers, they aren't just securing a small beachhead, they are marching deep into enemy territory, establishing a highly visible forward position.
All while the rest of the nation is still, dealing with rocks in the riverbed.
Right. It's a stark contrast.
And this is where the logistics just seem to clash with the reality of their situation. I mean, you have millions of tons of water miraculously held back, which could theoretically come crashing down at any second.
It's a ticking clock.
Yeah. And you have an enemy stronghold just 8 kilometers away. In a situation requiring extreme tactical efficiency, why implement this rigid bureaucratic requirement of pulling one guy from every single tribe?
It seems counterintuitive.
Like, if this were a corporate exercise or a military operation, wouldn't you just deploy a dedicated squad of your strongest, fastest engineers to grab 12 rocks and get out of the danger zone as quickly as possible?
Well, sure. If the goal was simply to acquire 12 stones, absolutely. But efficiency is entirely discarded here in favor of unity.
Okay, unpack that. How so?
The Holman notes highlight how heavily the text leans on the phrase, all the people. This wasn't just the military vanguard crossing or just the leadership. The 12 stones represent the passage of the entire unified nation.
So it's about representation.
Exactly. Think about it. If a specialized squad from, say, the tribe of Judah built the monument, it basically becomes Judah's monument, right?
Oh, I see.
Future generations from other tribes wouldn't feel ownership over it. By mandating that one man from every single tribe physically carry a stone, well, every tribe has sweat equity in this memorial.
They're essentially preventing a fractured national narrative before it can even start. No single tribe can claim they were the sole architects of the memorial.
Precisely. And that underlying theme of national solidarity, it also explains the presence of those 40,000 soldiers.
Because they didn't even need to be there, right?
Right. The tribes of Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh actually already had their land assigned to them on the eastern side of the Jordan. That's the side they literally just walked away from.
Yeah, their families and their livestock were already secure. They are essentially deploying into a war zone for someone else's real estate.
They're keeping a promise they made to Moses. They committed to crossing over and fighting on the front lines until the rest of the tribes secured their land.
Wow.
And these 40,000 men, which the notes indicate represent their absolute elite fighting force, they're a walking, undeniable display of a unified front. It's a powerful deterrent to the surrounding nations.
And a profound statement of loyalty to their own people.
Exactly.
So, okay, we have this massive public display of military and tribal unity, which makes Joshua's next move incredibly confusing to me.
The second set of stones.
Yes, the 12 men carry their stones out of the riverbed to the new camp at a place called Gilgal. But then, Joshua 4.9 introduces this massive curveball.
It really is a strange detail.
It states that Joshua also set up 12 stones in the middle of the Jordan River, in the exact spot where the priest's feet stood. And the text notes they are there to this day. Let's apply some basic logic to this. Building a monument entirely underwater is geographically inaccessible and tactically absurd.
It goes against the whole idea of a monument.
The whole point of a memorial is for people to look at it. If you build it where the river's just going to rush over it and bury it in mud, it serves zero function. Is this just like a typo in the ancient text?
You are hitting on a classic, centuries-old, scholarly debate here. When you synthesize the notes from both study Bibles, you see how much scholars have wrestled with this seemingly illogical strategic decision.
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Oh, definitely not. The Holman Bible actually categorizes 3 distinct possibilities for what is happening with these riverbed stones.
Okay, let's break those down, because the idea of an invisible monument defies basic human behavior. What's the first theory?
The first theory suggests it wasn't completely underwater all the time. It posits that Joshua's team built a very tall pillar of stones that only became visible during the dry season when the river levels dropped.
So like a seasonal marker.
Right, an annual reminder emerging from the waters.
I have to challenge the physics of that. A stacked stone pillar, tall enough to breach the surface of a flood stage river, sitting directly in the main current. That would be structurally obliterated during the first rainy season.
That is a very valid critique, and it's why scholars look for other options.
What's the second theory?
The second possibility is that there wasn't a second set of stones at all.
Wait, really?
Yeah, the theory is that the text is simply phrased in a way where Joshua, as the commander-in-chief, is receiving the overarching credit for the stones that the 12 men carried to the camp.
That feels like a literary cop-out.
A lot of people feel that way.
I mean, the text explicitly specifies the location, right? In the middle of the Jordan, in the place where the feet of the priests stood. It doesn't say he set them up at the camp. If we're taking the text seriously, we can't just ignore the geographical coordinates it provides.
Which brings us to the third possibility, and this is where the NAA notes plant their flag.
Okay, what do they say?
They argue that a literal, straightforward reading of the Hebrew strongly demands a second, hidden memorial left in the riverbed.
But that brings me right back to my original problem. Why expend the energy to build a memorial that no one can ever look at?
Well, it demands a shift in how we define a memorial's function. A highly visible monument at the camp is for the people to see. But a hidden memorial in the very spot where the miracle happened, that functions entirely differently.
How so?
It's an anchor. It fundamentally alters the geography of their history. The phrase, "until this day," is the key indicator here.
Oh, okay.
The NAA notes explain that this phrase reveals the perspective of the later narrator who's compiling this account. They're verifying to their contemporary audience that the stones remain in the riverbed even if they're covered by rushing water.
I understand the concept of a time capsule, but time capsules are designed to be dug up and opened eventually. This is designed to be buried forever.
But consider the psychological weight of knowing something is buried beneath you, even if you can't see it. The knowledge that those stones are holding that specific ground changes how the nation views the Jordan River forever.
It's not just a river anymore.
Exactly. It transforms a natural geographical border into a graveyard for their past and a permanent localized anchor for their faith. They don't need to see it. They just need to know it's there.
Wow. Okay. So the geography itself holds the memory, regardless of human visibility.
Precisely.
That actually transitions us into how heavily engineered this entire crossing is. It isn't just about moving people from the east side to the west side. It's a highly coordinated echo of their own history.
It's very intentional.
Yeah, the text tells us that God exalted Joshua that day in the sight of all Israel, so they respected him all the days of his life, exactly as they had respected Moses. And it gives us a highly specific date for when this happened.
10th day of the first month.
Right. And anyone following the overarching narrative of this text knows the 10th day of the first month is not arbitrary.
Not at all.
That is the exact date in Exodus chapter 12 when preparations for the Passover begin. They are crossing into new territory on the precise anniversary of their preparation to leave Egypt. It's like Red Sea 2.0.
It really is. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it goes beyond a simple anniversary. This is a structural mirroring designed to authenticate leadership.
Right, because Moses was the guy.
Exactly. Back in Egypt, on the 10th day of the first month, families selected the Passover lamb. That action was the catalyst for their deliverance from slavery, which, culminated in the miraculous crossing of the Red Sea under Moses.
The ultimate origin story.
Right. Now, exactly 40 years later, the identical parameters are playing out.
It is essentially an ancient version of a cryptographic signature. Like, in a society without mass communication or digital verification, how does a new leader prove they have the exact same divine backing as the legendary founder of the nation?
They need a sign.
Exactly. So God runs the exact same program, parting a massive body of water on the exact same calendar day. The people can verify the signature. It proves Joshua carries the identical security clearance that Moses had.
And that transfer of credentials is sealed the moment the crossing ends.
What happens?
The text notes that as soon as the priest's feet touched dry land on the other side, the waters of the Jordan return to their place and overflow the banks just as before.
Boom! The door violently shuts behind them.
Exactly. The miracle ceases, the physics of the river return to normal, and the era of Moses is officially locked in the past.
And they immediately march to their new base camp at Gilgal. The Holman notes mention that the name Gilgal translates to circle.
Yes, circle or rolling.
That detail seems highly relevant given what they are carrying. I mean, they aren't just dropping these 12 boulders in a random pile. They are arranging them.
And a circle carries immense tactical and symbolic weight.
Okay, tactically first.
Tactically, an encampment formed in a circle represents defense and unity. You're looking inward at your own community while facing outward toward the threat, which in this case is Jericho.
Makes sense. And symbolically.
Symbolically, placing the 12 stones in a circle represents the closed loop of their journey. The narrative that began in Egypt is now coming full circle in the Promised Land.
Which brings us to the actual function of this circular monument. The NAA notes point out that this is just the first of 7 different stone memorials set up in the Book of Joshua.
They really like their stone monuments.
This culture is heavily reliant on massive stone structures, but the text is very clear that this isn't just an art installation. It has a highly specific pedagogical purpose.
Absolutely. In an ancient agrarian society, stones were the archive.
The library.
Right. But the brilliance of this specific monument is how it forces interaction.
The instructions given to the parents are so fascinating to me. They are told that when future children ask, what do these stones mean? The parents are to say, Israel passed over this Jordan on dry ground. And they explicitly link the drying of the Jordan to the drying of the Red Sea.
It's a prompted history lesson.
Yes. God doesn't just hand down a scroll and command the parents to lecture their kids every week. The monument relies on the child asking the question first.
It operates on the core principles of educational psychology. Well, a lecture often passes right over a listener's head. But a massive circle of unhewn, heavy river stones sitting in the middle of a grassy plain. That is a jarring visual anomaly.
Right, it doesn't belong there.
Actually, it provokes curiosity. Once the child asks the question, the brain is primed to receive the answer. The physical object creates the deficit of knowledge that the historical narrative then fills.
That is brilliant. But the text is also clear that this isn't solely an internal educational tool for the Israelites, right? Verse 24 outlines a dual purpose, one inward and one outward.
Yes. Inwardly, the memorial is designed so that Israel would reverence or fear the Lord their God forever. They are stepping into a hostile land filled with fortified cities and entrenched armies.
They need a permanent physical reminder of the power that brought them there.
Or they will quickly succumb to fear. Exactly.
But the outward purpose, however, is pure psychological warfare. The text states the stones are there, so that all the peoples of the earth may know that the hand of the Lord is mighty.
And let's connect that back to the 40,000 vanguard soldiers we talked about earlier.
Oh, right, the ones spreading out across the plains of Jericho.
Exactly. Word of a flooded river miraculously drying up to allow an invading army to cross that is going to travel through the surrounding city-states at lightning speed.
The stones serve as a permanent physical stake in the ground, claiming divine backing.
Yes.
When the scouts from Jericho look out over the plains and see this massive stone circle, it reinforces the terrifying rumors they are hearing. It is a broadcast to the surrounding nations about the sheer magnitude of the power they are now dealing with.
Every element of this chapter operates on multiple levels.
It really does.
The seemingly bizarre command to halt an army in a dry riverbed to do manual labor results in a profound statement of tribal unity. The invisible stones left in the water create a permanent geographical anchor.
And the precise calendar date authenticates Joshua's leadership by perfectly mirroring their greatest historical rescue.
Exactly. And then the physical exertion of building the monument at Gilgal creates a permanent teaching tool that simultaneously educates their children and intimidates their enemies.
It's amazing. And, you know, the through line connecting all these elements is the physical weight of memory. God provided the dry ground, but the people were required to do the heavy lifting to ensure the memory of that dry ground survived.
Right, it wasn't passive.
No. Knowledge, history, and gratitude are only preserved when a community actively works to anchor them. Which brings me to a thought I want to leave with you, the listener, as we conclude our deep dive of this text.
This really important takeaway.
We live in a modern digital culture where we store almost all of our history in the cloud. We document our triumphs and our survivals in, fleeting videos, digital articles, and quick social media posts that vanish down a feed in a matter of hours.
It's all very ephemeral.
Exactly. We don't have to carry anything heavy to remember our past. The friction of preservation has been entirely removed. But consider what is lost when memory becomes weightless.
Yeah, that's a powerful way to put it.
What if we were required to build literal monuments of 12 unhewn, heavy river stones every time we survived a massive collective trial?
It would change how we view those trials for sure.
Think about every time you made it through a season where the waters threatened to overtake your life or your business or your family, but somehow you walked across on dry ground. How much more profound, literally and figuratively, would our memory of those events be if we had to physically sweat to memorialize them?
If we actually had a physical reminder.
Right. If we had an undeniable, heavy object sitting in our homes that proved we survived. So I leave you with this question. What stones do you need to set up in your own life so you don't forget what you have survived?
That's the real challenge here.
What tangible, heavy, undeniable reminders do you need to place in your path so that when the next generation looks at your life and asks, what does this mean? You have a permanent story of deliverance ready to tell. It is something to think deeply about as you look at the markers of your own history.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Joshua chapter 4. As we go, remember that God blesses all of you listening. Until next time.